Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. So today let's continue our discussion with feature selection methods. Today we are going to look at the filter methods, right? So let us have a recap. In the last session, we have seen two methods for feature selection evaluation strategies. And these methods were the filter methods and the wrapper methods. So we had a discussion related to both of these methods. So what is filter method? In filter method, we are having the training set, no doubt, with the complete feature set, and we are having few steps to be carried out. So in the first step, we are having some search algorithms. Those are actually searching for the subsets of the given feature sets. So this search algorithm is responsible for finding out the subset of the original feature set. This feature subset is being evaluated now. So we are having the objective functions, and based on these objective functions, the information content is being evaluated for the respective feature subset. And based on this information content, further the search algorithm decides which part of the feature space to explore further, and this is the iterative process, and ultimately we come up with a feature subset given the original training data set and the feature set. So after getting this final feature subset, this feature subset is being used for further implementation of ML algorithms. So this is the filter method. Whereas in wrapper methods, the wrapper method is also known as the supervised methods, and these filter methods are the unsupervised. So in case of wrapper methods, what happens is, once again we are having the training data, the feature set, there is a search algorithm. So this search algorithm finds out the subset of the features, and here itself we are evaluating this feature subset. So we are using some ML algorithm, and this ML algorithm is being trained by making use of this subset of the features, right? And the accuracy is being predicted. Based on this accuracy, once again the search algorithm tries to come up with another subset, and this process again continues till we get some optimal set of features, which is the subset of original set of features. So here in wrapper methods, what happens is we are implementing ML algorithm itself in the process, so that we can come up with the good or optimal subset of the features. So every time the subset is being found, the ML algorithm itself is being used to predict the accuracy, and further depending on the accuracy, the decision is being made to modify that subset, and once again with the new subset, the ML algorithm finds the accuracy and the process continues, right? And ultimately we are getting the feature subset, and this final feature subset is being once again used for finally to build the ML model. So these are the wrapper methods. So let us first begin with the filter methods, and we'll see how these filter methods are being used, right, to find out the feature subsets. So we'll be focusing on one such method and with examples, so that you can understand how actually the process works. So in filter methods, typically we are using some statistical measures to assign the score to each feature. So if I am having the feature vector x, wherein I am having the features like x1, x2 up to xn, then what we are going to do is we are going to use some statistical measure to assign the score to each and every feature that we are having, right? These features are being ranked based on the score that is computed. So score actually is giving us the importance of that feature. So we are finding out the importance, how important is that feature. So based on this score or based on the importance of the feature, we are going to rank those features, right? And once again, the user will determine some ranking cutoff, or this is some threshold, right? So based on this threshold, we will decide which features to retain and which features to remove or eliminate. So this is how we will come up with a subset of the features, right? I'll repeat once again. What we are going to do is, we are having a feature vector or a feature set comprising of n number of features. So in filter methods, what we do is, we use some statistical measure to assign a score to each and every feature independently, right? So if I am having x1, x2 up to xn features, then every feature will have some score associated based on this statistical measure. So this score actually gives us the importance of that particular feature. So based on these scores, we are going to rank our features. So whichever is the feature that is most important, we are going to retain that feature. But whichever are the features having low scores, or those are not really important as far as our prediction is considered, we are going to ignore those features. So once the scores are being computed, what we next do is, we come up with some ranking cutoff or threshold. So if the feature scores are more than that threshold, then we retain those features, otherwise we eliminate those features. And this is how we are going to reduce the dimensionality of our original feature vector, right? And we come up with a subset of the original set. Now, usually these methods are univariate and they consider the features independently. So independently, we pick every feature, right? And or we try to find out the correlation between two independent features or a feature, individual feature, along with the associated dependent variable. What we mean by that? See, we know that every instance is been denoted as xi, yi. So what is this xi? Xi is actually this feature vector, right? Wherein we are having several features, n number of features. And what is this yi? If it is a classification problem, this is a class label. Or if it is a regression problem, then yi denotes some continuous value. So this xi and this yi is my dependent variable, right? And these xi's are the feature vectors. So these features are actually the independent variables. Are you getting me? Yes? Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
So you must have understood now what we are trying to do. We are having our training data set in the form of xi, yi. Xi is a feature vector, yi is the label if it is a classification problem, or this is a target variable. So yi is our dependent variable and all the features are the independent variables. So what we are going to do is the independent variables are being considered individually or these are being considered with regard to the dependent variable. And we try to find out some statistical parameter out of these variables. And we try to find out the score associated with every feature in our feature vector. So, with respect to these filter methods, in this slide, we are having some statistical measures. Those are being depicted. Those are being used popularly. So please look at this figure. What we have, we are having, see here, we are having some input variable. Input variable may be numerical or categorical. What we mean by that? Input variable is actually a feature, right? That is the independent variable. Right? So this feature or this independent variable may have the numerical value or it may have the categorical value. Numerical value means some real value may be assigned to the input variable. Say for example, if we are trying to look at the housing price data set, right, then the size of the house is numerical. Right, so size of the house is the feature, that is the independent variable and it is having the numerical value. Correct? If we are having some other kind of variable, we may have the categorical values assigned to that. What does this mean? Suppose we are having another independent variable, say whether the house is renovated. Then we are having the categorical value for this independent variable and those values are yes or no. So these are the categorical variables, whereas the size of house is the numerical variable, right? So in our input variable may be either numerical or categorical, right? Now if we are having numerical variable, then we will see what kind of output variable we have, right? So if I am having numerical variable, say size of house, then we'll see what is the output variable or the target variable. Output variable is actually the dependent variable that we are going to predict, right? Say for example, in our housing price prediction problem, if size of house is one of the features, that is numerical, what is my output variable? What I am going to predict? I am going to predict price of the house. Suppose I am going to predict price of house, right? So this price of house is my dependent variable and that too is numerical, right? So if my input variable is numerical, my output variable is numerical, then I may use the statistical measure such as the Pearson's correlation coefficient or the Spearman's coefficient, right? If my input variable is numerical but my output variable is categorical, so we are predicting something like yes, no, low, high, something like that. So if my output variable is categorical, then I may come up with the statistical measures like ANOVA or Kendall's measure. Similarly, if my input variable is categorical and my output variable is numerical, then also I may think of this ANOVA method or the Kendall's method. Whereas input variable is categorical and output variable is also categorical, then we may prefer to make use of the statistical measures like chi-square test or mutual information, right? This ANOVA actually stands for analysis of variance, right? So these are some statistical measures. Those are being used to compute the score. These statistical measures are being used to compute the score associated. Yes. So all those statistical measures are actually useful to find out the score associated with the attribute or the features, right? So depending on the kind of feature we have and depending on the kind of dependent variable that we are going to predict, we need to select the appropriate statistical measure, right? So I'll be explaining you next one such method, right? And that is the most popular Pearson's correlation coefficient. So if I am having input variable that is numerical, output variable that is also numerical, then we may prefer to use Pearson's correlation coefficient. So I'll be explaining you this Pearson's correlation coefficient with one example so that you can understand how actually such kinds of statistical measures to be used to rank the attributes or features in our feature set, right? So let's proceed now with this Pearson's correlation coefficient. So this Pearson's coefficient is actually the measure of strength of the association between two variables. This is the measure of the strength of the association between two variables. So given two variables, say x and y, we are going to find out the strength of association between these two variables. How these two variables are correlated with one another, right? So it is used as a measure for quantifying linear dependence between two continuous variables. So x and y are the continuous variables and we are trying to quantify the linear dependence between these two variables by making use of this Pearson correlation coefficient. And the value of this Pearson correlation coefficient varies between -1 to +1. And this is the mathematical formula that we are going to make use of to find out the Pearson's correlation coefficient. So let me explain you what this formula is. As I stated, we are trying to find out the correlation between two continuous variables. So let us assume that x and y are two continuous variables, right? So typically x is my independent variable. So we are computing this correlation between any two variables. Those are continuous value, right? So this is suppose independent variable, this is dependent, or it may happen that both are independent. And we are trying to find out the correlation between any two variables, those are having continuous values. Meaning, if I am having these two features, x and y, right, I'll be having several instances of those features, or I'm having those many feature vectors, and in every feature vector I'll be having some value associated with x and some value associated with y. So let us assume that I'm having some value of 10.1, 11.8, 12.3, 15.6, 10.2, 9.9, 8.3, something like that. So these are the x independent variables. I am having another variable y once again, which is a continuous value, and suppose I am having some values like 2.38, 3.3, 6.2, 5.8, 3.6, 3.9, 4.2, something like that, right? Now, I want to find out how these two variables are correlated. right? We want to measure the strength of association between these two variables. So what we are going to do is we are making use of this formula to compute this Pearson's correlation coefficient R. So what does this mean? What we are actually going to do? If we want to compute this R, what we are going to do is we are going to find out xi minus x bar into yi minus y bar. What does this mean? This x bar is actually mean of all xi's, right? So these are the xi's. So this is my first sample. So I'm having this first value xi, then this is also xi. So all these are the xi's and all these are the yi's. So in my training data set, whichever are my training examples, I'll be having those many values for my xi or x variable, and for y variable I'll be having those many values. So what I'll be doing is I'll be finding out the mean, and that mean is denoted as x bar and mean of y is denoted as y bar. So mean of these values and mean of these values, those are x bar and y bar, right? So what next I'll do is I'll pick every xi value. So 10.1, okay, so 10.1 suppose minus whatever is this x bar value. So anybody can you compute what is the mean value of all those values? X bar, what is x bar and y bar? Yes? Anybody who can compute what is x bar and what is y bar? Mean of x values and mean of y values. So what it comes out to be? Yes.
Mean of x is 11.17.
11.17. And what about y bar?
4.19.
4.19. Okay, fine. So once we have computed this x bar and y bar, see how we are going to compute those terms. Xi minus x bar. So 10.1 minus our x bar is 11.17. Right? Yi minus y bar. So we are going to compute. So this is xi minus x bar. And let us try to write here yi minus y bar. So 2.38 minus y bar is 4.19. So similarly, for every example, we are going to compute. Say here at 11.8 minus 11.17, then 12.3 minus 11.17 and so on. So this is how we are going to compute xi minus x bar and yi minus y bar. And finally, what we are going to do is we are going to have a sum. Right? So we are having these quantities available. We are having these quantities available. So we are going to multiply these quantities and we'll be having the summation. Right? So this will give me one single value. Right? Similarly, we have computed xi minus x bar here. So we are having now one more term, that is the square of this xi minus x bar. Also, we'll be having another term, that is the square of yi minus y bar. Right? So whichever are those quantities, once again we are going to sum up all those quantities and we'll be having the square root of that. Right? So with the help of this formula, it is possible for us to compute this R, which is my Pearson's correlation coefficient. Right? So for every pair of variables, we are going to compute this kind of Pearson's correlation coefficient. Are you getting me? Yes? Are you getting
Yes.
me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So now see here, I am having one comment related to Pearson coefficient. So depending on the value that we are computing as the correlation, find out how two variables are correlated with one another. So based on this Pearson's correlation coefficient, ultimately we are going to infer something. So what we are going to infer, say for example, I am having here few plots of correlation coefficients. So if my Pearson correlation coefficient R is say 0.4, then I'll say that it is positive correlation. If R is equal to 0, obviously I'll say that there is no correlation. And if R is equal to some negative value, negative correlation coefficient, then it is a negative correlation. So what does this mean? Positive correlation, negative correlation, or no correlation? Positive correlation means if feature A increases, or if we are talking about two variables x and y, so if my x value increases, then my y also increases. If my x decreases, then my y also decreases. If this is the case, then I'm having some positive value for R, we say that it is a positive correlation. So if one value increases, another value also increases, or one value decreases, another value also decreases, then it is a positive correlation. If we are having x value increasing, but whenever x increases, my y value decreases, or whenever my x decreases, y value increases. If this is the case, then I'll say that it is negative correlation. And if I'm having no relationship between two variables, if my Pearson correlation coefficient is evaluated as 0, this indicates that there is no correlation at all between these two variables. So these variables are not related with one another, right? So if we are having a value of R that is closer to 0, then we say that it is weaker correlation. If it is exactly 0, then we say that there is no correlation. If a value of R is closer to 1, then we say that it is stronger positive correlation. And if a value is closer to -1, then we say that it is a strong negative correlation. Let's proceed now with one example. So I hope the basic concept and how the coefficient is being computed is clear. So let me tell you now one example so that you can understand how we are going to find out the feature subset out of the given feature set. Now, whatever you are looking at is the Boston data set. So few tuples, few of the examples from Boston data set that is available. You may download this Boston data set if you want, and you may practically compute it, right? So we are having shown here only the 5 instances from this data set. So in this data set, actually, we are having 14 variables, 14 features. Those are being listed here. And what are those features? Those features are also described. So this Boston data set is meant for, it is a popular data set for housing prices, right? So this data set includes 14 variables or 14 features. So the first feature here is CRIM. So this is per capita crime rate by town. Per capita crime rate by town. ZN is the next feature. So this is proportion of residential land zoned for lots over 25,000 square feet. So this is how the data set is being described. We are not bothered right now what is the meaning of each and every feature, right? But this is for your understanding. Whatever problem that we are going to solve, we are having such kinds of features, right, available. Those are describing the instances. So for every feature, I'll be having some value. So this is actually the instance describing house 1, suppose house 1, right? So this house 1 is described with all those features. So what is the crime, per capita crime, what is this ZN value, what is this Indus value, and so on, right? And this last variable, that is MEDV, that is the median value of owner occupied homes, median value of owner occupied homes in thousands of dollars, right? So actually this MEDV is our target variable in this data set that we would like to predict, right? So these 13 are the independent variables forming the feature vector X, and this is my Y, that is my independent variable, sorry, this is my dependent variable, and X are the independent variables. Y is the dependent variable or my target variable. So we want to predict this MEDV based on these features, right? Have you understood the problem? Yes? Have you understood the problem?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we are having this data set with us, right? And you have understood whatever are the attributes or features, those are describing one house, right? So based on all those independent variables, we would like to predict this MEDV value. So this is our target variable. So what we are going to do next is, we are going to find out the Pearson correlation coefficient between every pair of variables. So just look at this matrix. So this is a matrix that is being computed, and this matrix actually denotes the Pearson correlation coefficient between every pair of values, every pair of variables, right? Say for example, the first variable or the feature that we have is described CRIM. Okay, so we have listed here all these rows in this matrix are depicting individual feature, correct? And this column also depicts individual feature. So we are having the columns also depicting individual features, right? So overall, including this target variable, we are having 14 features. So I'm having this matrix of size 14 by 14, right? So what I'm trying to do is, so this is my CRIM first, right? So this is ZN, this is Indus, and so on. Right? So the correlation between Cr ion and Cr ion is 1. They are highly correlated. They are same, na? So they are highly correlated. So we are having this correlation coefficient between these self variables, crime, Zn, Indus. So all those diagonal components are ones, right? Because we are trying to find out the self correlation with itself. So obviously this diagonal is having the value 1, highly correlated, right? Now what we have done is, see, Cr correlation of Cr with this Zn, correlation of Cr with Indus, correlation of Cr with the next variable, that is CHAS, then NOx and all. So correlation of CRIM with all 14 features is being computed. Correlation of Zn with all 14 features is being computed. And the formula that we have used is the R for computation of Pearson correlation coefficient. So these values, those we are looking at right now in this matrix, those are the respective correlation coefficients. Are you getting me? Yes? Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So once we have created this matrix of correlation coefficients, then now we are going to decide which are the important features, those we should retain, and the features those we should not have. So how to do that? So as I stated, our target variable is MDEV. So obviously what we would like to do is, we want to find out the strong correlation between these independent variables and this dependent variable. So this is my independent variable MEDV that we want to predict. So what I want is, if I want to predict this, right, which are the highly correlated features out of these 13 that I would like to find out. Okay, now what we are going to do is, we are going to identify only those independent variables which are highly correlated with this MEDV. We are going to identify only those independent variables which are highly correlated with our target variable. So to find out this high correlation, we have selected the threshold as 0.5. So this 0.5 is our threshold. So we are assuming that if the correlation is greater than 0.5, either positive or negative, if it is greater than 0.5, then that independent feature is highly correlated with our dependent feature or dependent variable. Right? So if we look at this column for MEDV, we are having all the correlation values with all different variables, independent variables. Say for example, correlation of this MEDV with CRIM is minus 0.39. MEDV with Zn, the correlation is 0.36 and so on. Right? We have decided our threshold as 0.5. So we are going to pick up only those values or only those features. Those are having the correlation which is greater than 0.5, either positive or negative. So if we look at all those values, what we find is, see here my correlation coefficient is 0.7. Right? Then that is greater than 0.5. Then I am having here this, that is 0.51, and I am having here this, that is 0.74. Correct? So out of those 13 independent variables, those we have, these 3 features are highly correlated with our target variable, that is MEDV. Correlation is more than 0.5, then we say that these are highly correlated with our target variable. So meaning these 3 variables or these 3 features are influencing my target variable, right? So we need to retain these 3. Is that correct? So this is the first step. So once we have shortlisted these 3 features, RM, PT ratio and LSTAT, right? Once we have identified that these 3 variables are highly correlated with our target variable, what next we are going to do? We are going to check next the correlation of these selected features with each other. So we have identified RM, PT ratio and LSTAT, these 3. So what we are going to do next is, see here, for simplicity, I am just preparing now one more matrix, RM, then PT ratio and LSTAT. So here also I am having RM, PT ratio and LSTAT. So correlation between RM and RN is one, obviously the self-correlated variables. Then correlation between RM and PT. Here is my RM column. Okay, and where is my PT ratio column? My PT ratio column is this. Okay, so correlation between PT, RM and PT ratio is minus 0.36 and RM and LSTAT is minus 0.61. Then PT and RM, obviously it is minus 0.36. Then PT and LST. So PT ratio and LSTAT. So 0.37. So here it is 0.37. Okay. LSTAT and RM. LSTAT and RM. LSTAT and RM minus 0.61. LSTAT and PT. LSTAT and PT ratio. It is 0.37. Right? So what next we are going to do is, we have found out 3 features, those are contributing in the prediction a lot, highly correlated. But now once we have obtained these features, next thing that we are going to do is, we are going to check the correlation of these selected features with each other. So these 3 features are selected, so we are trying to find out the correlation between each other. Right? Now what next? What we identify here? If we look at this RM and this LSTAT, RM and LSTAT, then they are highly correlated. RM and LSTAT are highly correlated, right? 0.61 greater than 0.5, right? So what does this mean? This means that these are highly correlated. That means those are contributing in similar way to find out my target. So there is no need to have both of these. So we are going to keep only one variable out of these 2 because they are correlated, and we are going to drop the other one. So if they are highly correlated and if we want to drop one of these 2, then which variable needs to be removed or eliminated? So what we are going to do next is, we are going to look at the correlation of these 2 variables with the target variable. So RM is having the correlation with target variable, that is 0.7. Okay, and LSTAT is having 0.74. Right? So LSTAT is more correlated than RL with the target variable. So out of these two, RL and LSTAT, whichever is more correlated, we are going to keep that. So we are going to keep LSTAT since its correlation with the target variable is higher than RL, and we are going to remove this RL. Right? So ultimately, we'll be having the final feature selection, such as we'll be having only two features now in our feature vector, LSTAT and PT ratio. LSTAT and PT ratio. Right? So out of these 13 features, we have selected only two features. Right? And we have reduced the dimensionality of our feature vector. Now with these two features, we are going to perform our next task. We are going to use the machine learning algorithm for prediction by making use of only these two features, because we found that these two features are most relevant features. So we have eliminated remaining features. Got it? Yes.
Yes.
Right? So this is, I have explained you this one statistical method, how we can reduce the number of features by using this filter method. Right? So depending on the different kinds of variables that we are having in our data set, we may select the appropriate method. As I shown you the chart, how to select the major, statistical measure. So depending on that, we may select a particular statistical measure and we may come up with such kind of a strategy that will give us the reduction in dimensionality. So I hope you must have understood this concept of filter method, right? So let's conclude today's session. In the next session, I'll be focusing upon the remaining concepts. So the wrapper methods, and we'll be focusing upon PCA, that is the principal component analysis for feature extraction. Okay, so let's stop today. Thank you.